Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to make a reaction to Geography Now Saudi Arabia. We'll be learning about the largest country in the Middle East. Original link in description, and I'll start the video.
The land of the two mosques. I
Alright,
actually had
then.
the opportunity to travel here a couple of years ago and
Well,
get a
alright,
slight
then.
taste of the city and
Let's
countryside.
learn about
There's
the
so
Middle
much
East.
information that goes in this video.
Well, I
it
did
cannot
Iran.
be easily covered.
Now let's
so
do
I'll try
Saudi
my best.
Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Okay, let's learn about Saudi Arabia.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. When I say Saudi Arabia, most people think of two things: Islam and oil. I mean, this kind of is the place where Islam originated. Oh, and what's that? Yeah, you can get a Geography Now t-shirt or a Geography Now gym sack or a Geography Now mug at geographynow.com. It's not selling out if it's my brand. Also, as you know, this episode was filmed during COVID-19 pandemic times, so for the time being, obviously, everything will be filmed in my office. Kelvin and Jillian are my tenants. They live with me, so obviously they can be in these videos because
well, this was also...
Art is my closest neighbor. He lives within walking distance, so he'll be a regular. And with every guest host, we're going to film in separate time slots so that we're not all crowded in one place at once. Thank you. And with that, let's just jump into Saudi Arabia.
Let's learn political geography.
This episode is going to be big. Alright, so Saudi Arabia has actually had a lot of regional and sectional divisions based off of tribes and clans and former empires. I mean, there was even a point in time when their east coast was like ruled by pirates.
Just wait for my episode.
In any case, let's go to the globe. Saudi Arabia sits on the Arabian Peninsula
will
in the
be
Middle
also
East, the largest peninsula in the world, and
to.
in itself is the 12th largest country in land area at over 2 million square kilometers. The country is bordered by 7 other countries, and keep in mind they also have the King Fahd Causeway, which connects them to Little Bahrain, so technically 8 countries. The country is further divided into 13 regions with the capital of Riyadh, located fairly close to the south center of the country. Riyadh is the largest city and the second largest in the Arab world after Cairo with over 7 million people. It also has the second busiest airport, King Khaled International. The busiest airport, however, belongs to the second largest city, Jeddah, in the west with King Abdulaziz International, and they also have the largest shipping port as well. The second largest shipping port belongs to the King Abdulaziz port in the city of Ad-Dammam in the east side, close to Bahrain. Now, although Mecca, the third largest city, is an important place as the holiest city in Islam, they do not have an airport as they believe the city should be left free of air traffic and planes should not fly above it. Therefore, people wishing to go there usually fly to Jeddah and then take short land transport. The country has a vast road network extending to all other neighboring countries and 4 main rail lines connecting Riyadh to the
12th largest country and the largest in the Middle East,
connecting Medina to Mecca in the west. Today, plans for a transnational railway known as the Saudi Land Bridge are underway, as well as the GCC railway along the Persian Gulf, which is supposed to connect them with the other countries along the Gulf, like Kuwait and the UAE. However, progress is kind of slow. In addition, the country has about 1,300 or so smaller islands and islets off their coasts. About 89% of them are in the Red Sea, and the remaining 11% in the Persian Gulf, but Arabs will tell you it's the Arabian Gulf. Not going to get into that. Anyway, of these islands, the largest is Khorasan, with its archipelago in the south, close to Yemen. There was at one time a dispute with Egypt over the Sanafir Islands, right at the entrance to the Gulf of Aqaba. In 2016, however, Egypt's House Committee and Parliament approved of the transfer of the islands, which kind of angered a lot of people in the Egyptian public, but it still went through. In any case, the move went forward, and plans to build a Saudi-Egypt causeway are underway, which would officially connect the two countries for the first time since Ottoman Empire years. Key fact to note, the area of modern-day Saudi Arabia formerly consisted of 3 main distinct regions. The Hejaz in the west, where about 35% of the population lives, the Najd with about 28%, and Eastern Arabia, or Al-Asa, with about 15%. On top of that, Saudi Arabia takes their maritime trading routes very seriously, as about like a fifth of the entire world's oil shipping lanes pass through the incredibly narrow 21-mile wide Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about this before, and it can get pretty intense considering who's on the other side. It's like, hey, dude, you're in my boundary zone. You're in my buffer. Hey, yeah. Anyway, back to the civil layout. Saudi Arabia is structured in a unique
Saudi Arabia is a very rich country.
For one, they are the cornerstone and epicenter of the Islamic faith, holding the 2 most important sites in Islam, Mecca and Medina. You must be Muslim to enter Mecca. Authorities either check your passports for the religion label if it has one, or they ask you to recite the Shahada, or the Muslim creed. If you don't know anything about these cities, basically, Medina is the burial site of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and Mecca is not only his birthplace, but it also holds the holiest site in all of Islam, on the Kaaba, which is this cube-shaped building in the center of the Great Mosque of Mecca, the largest mosque in the world. It is the duty of every able-bodied and financially capable Muslim in the world to make a pilgrimage here at least once in their life, otherwise known as the Hajj. And Saudi Arabia actually holds quotas for each country with the amount of pilgrims that are allowed to visit every year.
What about the countries they have strained relations with?
Yep, even those. No Muslim is denied, regardless of sect or nationhood. The reason for the restriction is because every year it's like more and more people try to come, and it gets very packed and often dangerous, in which incidents have occurred in which people have died from like stampedes or crushings in the past few decades. In Saudi Arabia's defense, though, it's really hard to maintain crowd control when your city has to suddenly accommodate 3 times its own population. For what it's worth, though, the newly appointed Crown Prince has issued a mass array of social and economic reforms that the otherwise previous legislation was a little weary of implementing. This includes the ever so sensitive topic of foreign investment and tourism. But ultimately, you know, it was kind of like,
maybe we should just focus on religious tourism.
Let's
from
not talk
Mecca and
about-
Medina. How much did we make last year?
over 10 billion.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Yes.
let's
How
not
are
talk about any
non-Muslim
more
visa
sensitive
applications
topic.
looking?
Those have been going up too, especially in Jeddah and Riyadh.
I mean,
Tourist.
10 billion from just Muslims alone?
Not the other word.
Okay, I need a guinea pig. Hey, Emirates, how are you handling things?
Woohoo! I am having so much fun. People
Well,
are
I'm also doing the reaction video to the Emirates.
Interesting.
And that's
Excuse me, then.
basically how they granted their first tourist visas
Kingdom
in
of
2018.
Saudi
Prior to that, the
Arabia.
country only allowed non-Muslim visitors to come in if they had a business visa and if a
Excuse me.
Saudi national sponsored them, which is what I had to do back in 2015. I remember the process took forever. It was like a month. But now the country's like, yeah, come on in. Just stay away from Mecca, but come on in. Jeddah is also set to complete the new world's tallest building.
Don't even think about it. I got another trick up my sleeve.
Anyway, with Saudi
Excuse
Arabia,
me.
you'll see a bunch of other impressive
Alright, then.
feats of engineering. Art, tell the viewers what they could witness and the sights they could see when they go to Saudi Arabia.
You get to win a free car and some dates.
The yellow ones are really good.
Medijul. Nah, but for real, besides the obvious Mecca and Medina, there's actually a lot of really cool things going on in Saudi Arabia, like sightseeing-wise. For one, they have the largest water fountain in
Alright,
Jeddah,
then.
the world's largest desalinization
Excuse me,
plant,
alright.
and soon the world's largest hotel is about to be built. They even have the world's largest burger restaurant. It's called, wait for it, I'm hungry. I'm hungry right now, actually, Paul.
Yes,
It's in Saudi
Okay, you
Arabia,
have the
so.
D Ain Marble
Right
Village, Musmik Fort. Check out
Right
historic Diriyah, the Rijal Alma,
Mhm.
or the famous Saad ibn Saud Palace, the
Alright.
King Abdulaziz Center of World
Alright then.
Culture, the floating mosque, and there's that
Alright.
really mysterious looking cool rock that looks like it was cut by a laser, and nobody knows how it got that way.
Bob Saget.
And probably the most famous,
Superman?
yet very
No,
widely unheard of to outsiders, Madain Salah
Alright,
in
then.
Al Ula. It's Saudi Arabia's first UNESCO heritage site. Okay. Oh, you stole the T-shirt. Did you hear that, guys? You should buy one too.
At geography.com.
Also impressive, the landscape. Let's go there now.
Okay, let's learn about.
Now, we all know on the surface, Saudi Arabia is quite the dry country. Even looking at it from space, you're like, yeah, lots of beige and brown sand and rocks. But, if you look closer, the desert has a lot of different types of cool sands and rocks. It's more fascinating than you think. First of all, the country sits on its own entire tectonic plate, known as the Arabian Plate. The rifts on the edges of this plate are essentially what form the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf,
This
as
is
well as
interesting.
the Anatolian Highlands and the Zagros Mountains in Iran. The country is primarily characterized
I
by
already
the
did
Arabian Desert,
Iran,
the fifth largest in the
so-
world and the largest in Asia. It makes up about 90% of the land and is roughly broken into 3 separate sand deserts and 2
I already
rocky
did
highland
Egypt
deserts. The 3 sand
episode
deserts are the
reaction.
An-Nafud in the
Excuse
north,
me.
the Andana in the
Alright
east,
then.
and the Rub al-Khali in the
Alright
south, which
then.
is the world's largest continuous sand desert.
Alright
And it
then.
also has the highest sand dune in the world,
Okay.
Ramnat Jidila, at about 455 meters. These deserts shield the central
Alright
Nejd
then.
highlands, as well as the Hijaz mountain chain
Alright
in the
then.
west. The southwestern section of the
Okay,
Hijaz
this is
mountains,
not a
known
hate
as the
speech.
Tihama, are the most
Alright.
lush and green areas of Saudi Arabia. This is where the majority of Saudi Arabia's agriculture sector can be
Okay.
found, as the climate and mountains collect
Okay,
more
I
moisture
can see.
influenced by the jet streams carried by the monsoons from the Indian
Alright.
Ocean. Some of them even have snow caps in the winter
Alright
seasons, like the tallest peak of the country, which is
Alright.
also in this region, Jabal Sada, at about
Jabal
3,000
Sada.
meters tall. The
Sauda.
interesting thing, though, is that Saudi Arabia is officially the largest country in the world without any permanent rivers. They do, however, have wadis, or seasonal riverbeds, that flow on occasion and dry up in the warmer parts of the year. year. The longest wadi being Wadi al-Rumah in the Nejd Plateau, flowing from Jibal al-Abayad, or the White Mountain, near Medina, all the way to Buraida. For other water sources, though, the country does have quite a few oases speckled throughout the deserts, the largest one being the Al-Hassa Oasis in the east by the town of Al-Hufuf, further fed by the twins, the larger one, Lake Asfar, and Lake Hubayl, the largest lakes in the country. Finally, it's important to note that the flatter eastern section of the country is rich in hydrocarbon resources, and it is essentially the economic backbone that props up much of the country's export revenue sector. Going back to the southern green stuff, yeah, seriously, you'd almost assume it was like another planet with pristine spectacles.
Well, we'll watch some couple of Middle East episodes. I don't think I will react to every.
Ava, who is a travel YouTuber, check out her channel. Whew, all right, now it is time for my triple shot of espresso break, which means now Noah takes over for the rest of the segment.
Well, this thing does work. Huh, it'll do.
Alright then.
Here we are, once again at my humble abode. Now, of course, Saudi Arabia has lots of sand and rocks, but a lot of the sand and rocks are structured in a really cool way. For example, you have natural sites like this crater in this wadi, which is sometimes called the Grand Canyon of Saudi Arabia. And in the center of the country, you can find the edge of the world. In addition, the country has an abundance of hidden caves and chambers known as dals. Saudi Arabia is the largest economy in the Middle East and is considered an energy superpower. They are one of the top 20 economies in the world. They have the 5th largest natural gas reserve and the 2nd largest proven petroleum reserves at about 260 billion barrels. This, of course, makes them the largest petroleum exporter in the world as well. This means with the heavy supply at their disposal, fuel is very cheap here. It's actually cheaper than water. No joke. It's getting a bit dry again. Or water. These reserves account for about 90% of their budget revenues and export earnings and about 42% of their overall GDP, mostly managed by the country's largest state-owned company, Saudi Aramco. Anyway, off that topic, they also have about a dozen... voice cracked. They also have about a dozen or so nature reserves and protected areas throughout the country where you are most likely to find the desert wildlife. And with that, here's our animal correspondent, Gary Harlow.
It's Gary Harlow. He's back. For Saudi Arabia, certain places make great habitats for bird species like buzzards, quail, sandgrouse, pelicans, and storks. Otherwise, the Hejaz are home to the various mammal species like the Arabian red fox, the fennec, sand cats, striped hyenas, and the highly endangered Arabian wolf and Arabian leopard. In fact,
and also there is camels too.
Also, the iconic mammal of many Arabian countries, the Arabian oryx, was hunted to extinction, but later reintroduced through a breeding program in Phoenix, Arizona. Since then, Arabian ostriches and gazelles have also been reintroduced as well. Oh, and one more last thing. Saudi Arabia has the world's largest camel market, and the funny thing is, many of their camels are actually imported from Australia. Right, that means that I'm out. Back to you, Noah.
Thanks, Gary. And with that, we finish off this segment like we always do. You know what's coming. Are you ready for it? Food. Saudi Arabia follows pretty much the same general Middle Eastern format when it comes to food. You know, you'll see a lot of hummus and skewered meat on rice. But for what it's worth, here are some of the specialties you guys, the Saudi jogger peeps, mentioned. Mofata, salih, areka, masub, various types of mandi, murtabak, urid, kursan, dagabis, and what many consider the national dish, kabsa, which can have a variety of meats, but chicken and camel are popular. Also, in almost every household you will find cardamom coffee. It has a very distinct cardamom smell, and it is usually served with dates as an appetizer before any meal. And speaking of traditions, that brings us to the next segment, the
demographics.
Thank you, Noah. So, alright, if the Arab world was a family, you know, Egypt would be like the popular athlete, actor guy with a lot of connections. Iraq would be the wise old man that has a little PTSD. Oman is like the happy mom that everyone loves that just made you dinner. Qatar is like the black sheep who doesn't care what anyone thinks of him. Kuwait is like the classy rich cheerleader with straight A's. Bahrain is like the slightly tipsy partying rich cheerleader. Calm down, Bahrain. I'm joking. But I mean, come on. Everybody kind of knows your reputation within the Arab world. We all know it. Saudi Arabia and its people are well known throughout the world. We'll break it down in a bit. But first, the graph. Saudi Arabia has about 35 million people, and over half of the population is under 25 years old.
I'm also not Arab. I'm also not from Saudi Arabia.
The country is about 90% Arab in ethnicity and background, and 10% other groups, mostly from Africa and Asia. However, it's important to note that numbers and statistics often may conflict from varying sources, but the average general estimation is that actual Saudi citizens in themselves only make up about 60% of the country, and the remaining 40% are expats from abroad. The largest groups of expats coming from countries like India, Pakistan, Syria, Bangladesh, and the Philippines, and a small community of about 100,000 Westerners, mostly from Europe and the Americas. Saudi Arabia uses the Saudi Riyal as their currency. They use the types A, B, G, and F plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. The official language, of course, is Arabic, and it is also the original language of the Quran, and thus it is considered the only pure and trusted form of the Quran to be written in. Keep in mind, English is also widely spoken in Saudi Arabia. I mean, the British did kind of play a big role in their history.
Former colony.
Former protectorate, not colony. Now, if you're going to address the social structure of Saudi Arabia, it kind of boils down to two main groups that run the show. The royal family and the Al-Sheikh family. In the shortest way I can summarize it, the royal family kind of runs the government, and the Al-Sheikh family kind of facilitates religion, as the country is a theocracy. To put it simply, the House of Saud is the largest royal family on earth, with an estimated number around 20,000-ish members. They're spread across all the regions, but most of the power and influence lies in about 2,000 of them. And they are all descendants of Muhammad ibn Saud, the founder of the Saud dynasty back in the 18th century. The House of Saud didn't officially take over until the 1930s, though. Prior to that, they had two other eras of control, and it kind of went down like this.
Let's seal an alliance by having our kids marry each other, and let's join forces to control the area.
Yeah!
Oh, no, you don't. Also, fun fact, I'm gonna cut off your head and throw it into the Bosphorus Strait.
I'm gonna finish what my great-grandfather started and control the Emirate of Nejd.
Oh, no, you don't. Rashidis will rule forever.
I'm only 27 years old, and I'm gonna take back my family's kingdom with only 60 men, and I'm gonna unify Najd with Hejaz.
Oh, shit, that actually worked.
And whoa, there's oil here!
I want to unify all Arabs, and I believe the oil in Saudi Arabia should belong to all Arabs.
Whoa. I didn't sign up for that. Yeah, Egypt had a lot of interesting ideas back in the 60s. Anyway, for religion, the Wahhabi religious movement within Sunni Islam has been described, with debate, as the prominent feature of Saudi culture. I'm not here to eviscerate the inner doctrinal complexities of Wahhabi, or as the locals call it, Salafi doctrine, but basically adherents claim that it is very fundamentalist, conservative, and Puritan. Somewhere around 75 to 85% of the country are Sunni Muslims, and 10 to 15 are mostly Shia, living in the east and south borders by Yemen. All citizens are required to be Muslim, and all open practice of other religions of any kind are restricted. Keep in mind, non-Muslims do live in Saudi Arabia. That, they got a lot of Filipino expats that are Christian or Hindus from India. But everything has to be kind of like discreet. Like, authorities won't arrest you if you say you're not Muslim. And you can even kind of like openly talk about your beliefs. But things like, building places of worship and selling, publishing, and distributing religious texts, those are all forbidden.
This is where the episode is going to go in the non-sugarcoating direction, isn't it?
We all saw this coming. Because the country has a standard of religious reputation to uphold, like other Islamic theocratic nations, there are many laws and rules in the country, although not always strictly enforced, that have heavy regulations and punishments for acts that many people from outside might not be able to wrap their head around. They'd be like, why is that punishable? For example, anything that is deemed too immodest is generally frowned upon. I mean, in stores, you'll see like models with their bodies and faces blacked out. Freedom of press and speech are restricted to some extent, especially if it's criticizing the royal family. Pretty much all drugs are forbidden except for cigarettes. Alcohol is prohibited, but everybody kind of knows a guy where they can get some. The internet is heavily restricted, although everybody just kind of gets VPN servers to bypass this. And theoretically, based on the law, apostasy from Islam can be punishable by death if the individual refuses to recant. And probably the most controversial one, there are virtually no LGBT rights in the country. And again, theoretically, based off of the law, homosexuality can also be punishable by death given the circumstance. I asked you guys, the Saudi geography peeps, what your thoughts were on this, and more or less, you kind of said something along the lines of, there isn't any active persecution or witch hunt. Capital punishment incidents are far and wide in between,
okay,
and
let's
rarely
not talk
enacted.
about.
Nonetheless, the LGBT lifestyle is
Iran
just not
does the
something that can be
same,
compromised within Islamic doctrine if you claim to be a Muslim. Keyword, if you claim to be a Muslim. This is also kind of why Saudi Arabia claims to have an incredibly low crime rate, because people are probably less inclined to commit an act if they know that there's going to be severe repercussions. But yeah, anyway, bouncing off of that topic, after the hydrocarbon industry, Saudi Arabia prospers a lot from the service sector driven by expats. And with that, here's Art to explain.
If you rub it more than 3 times, that's playing with it. Your wish is my command.
Okay.
Damn, Mark. Why you gotta
Never
go
mind.
there?
Let's focus
I
on
might
the
leave
episode.
that in the video.
As we already mentioned
What?
in the Qatar episode,
I
Saudi
haven't
Arabia is another country
I haven't
that has
reacted
the often
about Qatar.
criticized kafala system. We won't get too much into it, but basically the entire legal resident status of a migrant falls within the jurisdiction of the employer. Almost all construction, maintenance, and blue-collar services are done by expats. Nonetheless, to ensure revenue circulates back to their own state, the Ministry of Labor and Social Development issued the Nitakat policy in 2011. This policy requires Saudi private sector firms to meet specific employment quotas for Saudi nationals over expats. Companies that fail to hire enough Saudi nationals risk losing government contracts. This has been quite frustrating for certain businesses, as most Saudis are unwilling to take service and manual labor jobs and are often not educated in technical jobs that
Let's
are
not
usually
talk-
assigned to expats. Sometimes companies just
Talk
bite the
about
bullet,
dark.
and it's like,
So
Okay, are you Saudi?
Yes.
Why do you want the job?
Eh,
Can you do the job?
probably not.
Can you at least show up?
If I feel like it.
You're
never
hired.
mind.
on top of that, there are no income taxes in Saudi Arabia, but they do give 10% of their salary monthly for pension plans.
Thank you, Art. And finally, one issue that seems to be misconstrued a lot, the role of women in Saudi Arabia. I don't know, Hannah, you're a woman. You take this part. Hannah, explain. What's the women's situation in Saudi Arabia right now?
Oh, well, let me tell you. Well, for one, unlike before, no, women do not need the approval or permission of a man to get permits, certificates, paperwork, or for
Well,
travel.
not-
And
it's
yes,
not-
since
it's opposite.
2017, women now have the right to drive cars. Saudi women also, for
It's
the first
also- it's
time,
quite
took part
opposite in
oil
Iran
gas.
and
No,
Afghanistan.
they are not required to wear hijabs, and you will see uncovered heads. The women actually outnumber men in enrollment in universities up to 60%.
Well,
So
UAE has
overall,
more men
things
than
are
women.
changing. Nonetheless, in public, sometimes you will see gender-specific segregation for men and then a different part for women and children.
Thank you, Hannah. We'll get back to you in a second.
Alright,
Nonetheless, there's also social benefits like free
Alright,
Medicare and free education if you get accepted into a
Alright,
university. So it's weird. It's kind of like a heavily
Alright,
religious land with somewhat austere limiting policies, polished with a shiny tech-hating exterior. That's basically Saudi Arabia today. Anyway, I've been talking for a while. It's time to take another triple shot of espresso break. And with that, here's culture stuff with Random Hannah.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia is essentially the cradle of Arabism, and it goes back a millennia. Prior to the rise of Islam in the 7th century, the entire peninsula was subject to a multitude of Arab tribes, clans, and smaller kingdoms. Originally, Arab clans practiced various forms of paganism and polytheistic beliefs before Islam. These ancient kingdoms and civilizations influenced a set of folklore, legends, and tradition, like the legend of Ali Baba and 40 Thieves, Sinbad the Sailor, and yes, even Aladdin. There's a ton of scary legendary creatures, like the Nas that has only half a body, Bint al-Harsa, whose lips are sewn shut, she tickles men to death. That is terrifying. Poetry is taken very
also very
seriously
terrifying.
and is a national pastime. They even have poetry competitions on TV with prizes of over $1 million.
What? I'm the poetry champ. I should get in on this. Paul, am I needed for the episode anymore?
No, Ian, you can go.
Traditional architecture varies by region and is based on what resources were available at the time. For example, the Nejd region, you will find thick mud brick box-shaped homes with wooden beams and a communal courtyard. Otherwise, in the Hejaz region, more sandstone and wood is used in buildings. As mentioned, women normally wear abayas, which come in black and also other colors. Men can often be found wearing thobes with a gatra and a gal on their heads. If it gets cold, they might add a bisht to it. And when they hear a sassy comment, they might respond with,
bitch, please.
Marriages are often heavily orchestrated by families. Arranged isn't really the
Relationship
best word because
in
actually
Saudi
adults
Arabia
can
is
reject each other
haram,
if they
and
want, but family
marriage is the only
involvement
allowed.
key. Otherwise, some very popular
In Islamic
pastimes
culture,
include things
excuse me.
like falconry, camel racing, and sidewalk skiing. And finally, festivals and celebrations are abundant. You have Gargian, in which kids dress in traditional clothes and go door to door asking for treats. Their national day is the 23rd of September, which is a big celebration with fireworks and skyscrapers light up with green, and lots of music and dancing can be heard. Which brings us to Keith, the rivalry continues.
Okay.
So just so you guys know, Rush is my favorite band. I've probably said about this about 10,000 million times. That's my commentary, don't sue. In Saudi Arabia, let alone the Arab world, music has always been an integral part of their culture. Each region kind of has their own specialty, but the most popular one considered
the national dance would be the Al Arda, done with swords and drums. It's pretty cool looking. Otherwise, Saudi Arabia has a thriving kind of contemporary music scene-ish, EDM. There's some metal bands. It always kind of teeters on the edge of, is it okay with the government or not? So, for instance, like Al Namrud, they're a black metal band out of Saudi Arabia. But they have to live a life in secrecy because due to the lyrical content and for the music, basically, they can't be known who they are or whatever. Their musical is punishable. How much more black metal can you get than that? We also have the all-female band, The Accolades. So, as you can imagine, it's a very controversial band. The band's first single, Pinocchio, has become an underground hit with 250,000 downloads and the group's page on MySpace. I totally forgot about MySpace. Wonder where Tom is now. Do you guys remember Tom? That's all I got you guys today.
Thank you, Keith. And now it's time for the briefly condensed history and famous people segment. Neolithic period, animal domestication, Ubaid period, pre-Islamic kingdoms, rise of Islam, Rashidun Caliphate, Umayyad Caliphate, Abbasid Caliphate, Fatimid Caliphate, splits off into tribal traditional rule in the Sharif of Mecca, clashes with the Persians, Ottoman rule, the first and second states of Saudi rule, unification and establishment of the kingdom, oil discovered, Gulf War tension, Cold War with
let's
Iran,
not talk
2030
about...
vision, and here we are today.
And
For
FIFA
people,
World
I'm just
Cup
gonna briefly summarize it. Pretty much
2034
all the
is
former
coming.
kings and some of the royal family members,
Not coming.
these
It will be
actors,
hosted in
these
Saudi Arabia.
football/soccer players, these singers, and some notable Saudi females include these people as well. All right, and with that, let's find out who Saudi Arabia interacts with across the world. Friend zone.
Let's
go.
learn from our friend zone.
Now, Saudi Arabia is a country everybody is paying attention to. So naturally, they play a big, important geopolitical role on the world stage. For one, in a sense, all Arabic-speaking countries and Muslim-majority countries have some kind of tie to Saudi Arabia. Indonesia and Pakistan are probably the closest allies in Asia. Pakistan is often called the closest non-Arab ally, as they have shared bilateral relations since the country's inception in 1947. Since then, they've shared military alliances. Saudi Arabia has invested heavily in Pakistan's infrastructure. They even funded the construction of the biggest mosque in Pakistan, which they named after King Faisal. Pakistanis can easily obtain business permits in Saudi Arabia, and Pakistanis provide assistance in the fields of technology and science. They even decreed a week-long mourning period when King Fahd passed away in 2005. Indonesia is important as they are the largest Muslim nation on earth, population-wise, and have the largest number quota of pilgrims for Hajj every year. Trade is crucial between them, especially in the petroleum industry, and today there are over 1 million Indonesian expats living in Saudi Arabia. The USA and UK are probably the
USA
closest
would be
Western allies,
the,
as Saudi Arabia was once a protectorate of the UK that worked side by side against the Ottoman Empire. Today, over 200 joint ventures exist between them.
It would be Saudi Arabia and
over
USA.
30,000 British nationals live and work in the country. The USA was also one of the first countries to recognize them after the Saudi family took over, and US President Franklin Roosevelt personally even met the king to establish future relations. Today, the two countries have a mutual defense agreement that involves operations and training for the Saudi military. Trade is huge between the two, and many Saudi nationals study abroad in the USA or the UK, especially members of the royal family. Tensions were a little strained after the 9/11 attacks, in which it was revealed.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Alright, let's not talk about the attacks. I'm sorry, let's not talk about the guys, so... I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my American audience. I really am.
Sidekick of Saudi Arabia. The two get along very well. At first, it was a little tense though, because Saudis were kind of responsible for ending the Hashemite kingdom's rule over the Hejaz region. But that's not really an issue they bring up anymore. When it comes to their best friends, however, most Saudis I've talked to have said probably their fellow GCC countries, the Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait.
I'm really sorry for my American audience. I had to censor it, so... Well, yes, it's educational, not an hate speech. Yes, not talk about that.
As we mentioned, is basically Saudi Arabia's hot girlfriend that he absolutely loves to visit and party with. Bahrain is essentially where Saudis go to get away from the strict life of being a Saudi. The two have had virtually no controversies. The royal families love visiting each other, and they have cooperated on almost every single diplomatic measure since each country's beginning. The UAE is the fun brother that, like Bahrain, they love to hang with. Saudi Arabia also kind of likes to observe the UAE like an experiment, so they can take notes on which practices they can implement in their own social structure for future development. For what it's worth, though, Saudi Saudi and Emirati or Bahraini meet, they don't even feel a sense of nationhood. They just feel a welcomed kinship. Oh, and of course, everyone loves Oman. Can't forget about them. Oman is like the loving grandma nobody disrespects. In conclusion, Saudi Arabia is today faced with a unique situation in which they kind of have to find a way to like.
Okay, I'm really have to censor it. I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry for this. I don't want to talk about that 2001 situation.
Stay tuned. Senegal is coming up.
Okay, goodbye.